Hi, folks. Eric Mashinsky, Gold Investment Letter. I'm going to just put a brief update out for you right now on a few thoughts with this market and a couple of companies and make it quick. We're in the middle of, you talk about this. I keep thinking about this almost every year lately. Sell in May and go away. Wall Street has that saying, and it's been pretty appropriate for 98% of mining company investors, at least when you're looking at the lower end of the market the last couple of summers, which has been a very, very severe bear market. We've come out of it a bit, but on the lowest end of the market capitalizations, here we are still watching some of these companies still trade at all-time lows, some of them retesting lows that we saw towards the end of last year. We're seeing also, as a paradox, some of the big producers, the blue chips, the Agnico Eagles, the Newmonts, trade to all-time highs. So I want to be realistic but opportunistic about all of this. Blindly continuing to buy juniors that are not showing any outside capital flows yet, you can pace yourself. I think that one of the beliefs that I have at my core is that some of the best buys, for those of us that can wait and don't have to, look for something to flip tomorrow, because frankly, we're seeing copper pullback, we're seeing nickel pullback. Gold, it looks to me like, is going to break to a higher leg along with silver. And my minimum target this whole time, if you look back to, say, my Real Vision interviews and things 9 months ago, was we need to see that 2100 broken on a monthly basis. That happened at the end of March. My minimum target for gold, 28, I said 2700, call it 2800, that's my minimum, to 3200 on the more brief, shorter term breakout leg, meaning that happened at the end of March, will happen within 12 months, probably within 7 or 8. So call it by Q1 next year. I see gold at a minimum. Let's just call it a minimum of 27 to 2800. The margins for larger companies are going to be substantial. We're seeing some of the Q2 numbers coming out now. This is what we need. We need the strength to occur in the producers that start to produce very substantial cash flow and net income, and then they get into a position of strength and start to acquire development projects, buy assets. We just saw Lundin, and I forgot who else it was that bought a big copper project in South America for $3 billion. There are going to be similarities to this trickle-down economics theory that Ronald Reagan had in the miners, because the juniors are still like an outsourced arm of exploration for the majors. And so the question is, which ones are going to do what? Are there any that are going to actually have action here? Let's call it between now and the end of the year. One of the things I wanted to feature and just touch on, and I'm going to be touching on the general market, giving you my thoughts on where we are in this market. Now is a good time, when we're in the slower period, to just re-examine our portfolio, look at what are the real opportunities, right? So, that's why I've also moved up the chain a little bit with some of my more recent updates, in the sense of, the Equinox Golds, the I-80s, things of that nature, which I feel have some great upside, but they're not moving like we've seen with the majors. So if you want the real leverage and you're going to look for the 5, 10, 20 bagger, real, I'm talking about real, like actually making 10 times your money. Have you done that? The way that I've been able to do it in the past tends to be with these environments where it's not clear where is or what is the next catalyst. It's just a cheap scenario. And before you know it, you own this cheap paper in a company, and all of a sudden a bit more of a bullish scenario creeps in, and then the lights turn on. And I'm looking at something like Giga Metals. Those of you that have been around know that. So my 3 biggest positions This is what I can relay with you guys. I mean, this is where my money is, so I think it means something. Phenom Resources remains by far my largest position. I bought more this morning. There's a very, very low volume pullback there. And I'm not going to get too much into Phenom today. I want to do a separate update. I know a lot of you own it. Phenom is a phenom, and this is a vanadium and gold play with just incredible things that are percolating behind the scenes, and that I'm very excited. When I say behind the scenes, I mean some of these are just, it's just stuff that, with communication with the company, I know that they've been working on for a while, and just with actual news releases that we've seen, reading between the lines with things like the third patent with petroleum coke, having more of an understanding about that, talking with the team. It's enormous. It's utterly enormous what we have with IP at Phenom. But anyway, that's my biggest position by far. I'm maintaining that position and actually growing it. I'm back to right at 10 million shares and warrants. Two-thirds of that is the stock. And my cost average is barely below where the market is right here, guys. So, like, if you want on my biggest bet, this is something that I plan to see through. And I'm not in this for even 50 or 100% move. I'm in it for, life-changing wealth. And otherwise, it's not really worth it for me to be this deep in the deal. And there's a lot of chances for that to be created, including the gold drilling programs that will be announced, I think, soon. They've talked about this in Nevada with some of the acquired projects that are very exciting. Secondly, when you take McEwen Copper, which I invested in privately in McEwen Mining, that's my number 2 individual position still. And then Giga, I just put in, there's actually a private placement going on there at 15 cents. Those of you that are accredited individuals, if you want to contact the company, Mark Jarvis, I think it's just so you know, I mean, if some of you are involved in this and you want to sock away a warrant, there's some left. Although our elite and premium members, we've taken a good chunk of this. It's M Jarvis, MJARVIS at gigametals.com. Ask him for a subscription document. You get a full warrant at 20 cents for 3 years, 15 cents on the unit. There's some left. You may want to take a look at that, because those warrants, I've made fortunes on warrants in the past. They've really come in handy. I think in this case, so I'm taking between 500,000 and 1 million units in the Giga placement myself. I'm not getting compensated on this placement or anything, just so you know, but that's me as an investor. I already own 2 point some odd million shares, which is, like 2% of the company. And then with my investment, depending on the size of the placement, I'm going to be around 2.5% owner of Giga Metals. It's just increased over the years. I'm steady and accumulating, and that thing is bombed out. And I'm going to follow up with more of a story on Giga, because one of the things that they're doing with the proceeds, a large part of the proceeds at Giga this time around, finally, they're spending a significant chunk of that money on marketing the story to new investors. I'm talking about a lot of money in the next 6 months. So I believe that's going to bear some fruit, where we see the stock increase in value despite the recent nickel price, because it's just so undervalued in general. And that's going to give us some motivation between now and, call it, January, where there will finally be some momentum in Giga, because they just haven't done that. Phenom is gearing up for the same thing. I mean, they're spending about half as much as Giga, but there's nobody besides us that really have been, beating the drum on this story, this incredible story. With Giga, there's just so much fundamental value. I would encourage you guys that are in it. If you've been disappointed, I'm down a good amount on paper. I continue to add, anything under that 20 cent Canadian level, 14, 15 cents US, just sock little bits away. And just, if you don't have to touch it for a while, I am convinced that Giga will pay off in multiples of our investment from here. When is it going to happen? Look, I've been wrong already on thinking that this would be at a better or closer valuation to when Mitsubishi, which is about 20 months ago, put in $8 million at a $53 million valuation for 15% of the Turnagain project. We have to triple just to get back to that. And they were the first ones in. The other companies that are going to come into this, because Giga's not going to build a $2 billion mine. They're going to either divest this thing for a big multiple, or they're going to bring in another partner that's going to pay for a feasibility, and then they're going to sell it. It's worth a lot more than where it's trading today. So when does that all come together? The way I look at it is I'm in for a penny, I'm in for a pound. I'm already in this deal. I'm adding to it because I know my ultimate thesis is going to be correct. And I would encourage you to do the same. Those are some of my best ideas and my biggest positions. I will have more for you guys soon. I would say that realistically, August could start to see a bit of a lift, but we're still in the middle of, like, everybody's saying, let's go to Europe. Let's take some time off and go to the lake with the kids. And, we're probably not going to see real action start to kick in until September in some of these names. But I do believe that this fall and winter with gold, if we keep on going up, as I presume, we're also going to see a lot of fireworks in crypto, in Bitcoin. And there's a lot of action to be had there. I will give you guys some inclination, if those of you that have been with me that have known that we've been talking about Bitcoin since $500 in 2016, had a big hit in the 2021 bull market with many different tokens. But I don't talk about that a lot here. I have another newsletter. I'll announce that soon, and you guys can, like, at least if you want to be on the radar of that, because there's a lot of action that's already happened in the last year, and it's pretty much saved my butt in the sense that I have liquidity to put into more Phenom, more Giga, because these are very cheap. Mux is still a buy under $10 US for long-term investors, but I've got a lot of that, and these little ones I just continue to chip away into really meaningful positions. But the crypto side, totally optional, obviously, for you guys, but there's going to be tremendous action again in that space in the next, call it imminently until into 2025. A lot of money to be made. And so on our junior side, it needs to compete with that, or it's just not going to be worth allocating serious fresh capital. But selling some of these names at this point, I'm actually seeing some real capitulation from people that are giving up. Actually, just recently, people that are giving up on putting new money to work in very attractive deals that normally they were always doing deals with our group. It's interesting, because is that a sign that we're nearing a bottom and we're actually going to get some life? It could be. I don't want to read into it too much, but this isn't like any type of an environment where we're at risk of a collapse in valuations. That's already happened. So keep that in mind. Have a great day. I will talk to you soon. Cheers.